Hey, what's going on? Jake here with Uncommon G.E.C. And today we're checking out the final knife in my Great Eastern Cutlery collection, at least as it stands so far. And we're looking at the 49, which is their Freedom pattern. The important thing to know about the 49 is it actually has a sister pattern, the 94, which is their Liberty pattern. And so these are basically identical. The main thing that differentiates them is the 49 is sporting a sheepsfoot blade and the 94 features a clip point blade. And so we're looking at the 49 today. Let's start with the tube. Don't have a 94 yet, but definitely do plan on grabbing one. Starting with that tube, one we've seen before, the Northfield Unexcelled, that we've seen repeated on a few different tubes at this point. Kind of the same thoughts on it. It's simple, it's elegant, a little bit boring just because we've seen it repeated so many times, but it's fine. Flipping over to the cap, have the Blue Camel Bone Covers on this one, which I think are really beautiful. But another important thing to note about the Freedom and Liberty, as I mentioned, they release in pairs, and so those cover materials so far have also fit under a certain theme, and that's just really patriotic. And so there's the most on the nose with their acrylic covers, and that one has an American flag on the show side, "We the People" text on the pile side, and I believe also has the Gadsden flag blade etch. And so that one's really cool. Actually, I would love to pick that one up at some point. The other two, though, are a little bit less on the nose, but also fit that same theme. So you have the garnet jigged bone, which is, of course, a red bone, and then the blue camel bone. So wouldn't be surprised if the next one was something like the unicorn ivory or something like that, a nice white covered, but not sure how long they're going to stick to that theme. There's only obviously so many different cover materials that fit along those colors. But of course you can redo the acrylic with different designs and stuff like that as well. So not impossible, but will be interesting to see if they continue to stay along that theme. So this model designation 49, of course, is the Freedom pattern. 3 indicates we have a sheepsfoot blade, single bladed, and produced in 2021. Although I don't think these actually went on sale until 2022. No pin with this one, so we'll get right to the knife. We have it in the G.E.C small slip, which is still a little bit too big for this knife. So I'm probably gonna have to get something made, custom one, or find just a smaller slip, because you can see I don't even need to pinch it, it just kind of pours out of there. And so a relatively small knife here, but does make the pretty good use of its space. I think we have a decent blade on this one. So 3.21 inches in that closed position, weighs in at 1.73 ounces. So definitely a smaller knife. First thing that probably jumps out to you are those beautiful covers, and these are the Blue Camel Bone. You get a lot of variation with that stain, and so that's one of the things that's actually kind of nice about buying these on the secondary. If you're buying these retail, you really have no say in what you're going to get, but on the secondary you can kind of target. Obviously you're limited by what's available, what's for sale, but you can target the ones that you like best, and that's actually exactly what happened here. I was looking for a lighter stain, I found 2 on the same day, and I was leaning towards this one, but wasn't sure. I actually asked on the Slip Joint Sanitarium Discord, which is Slip Joint Sawyer's Discord, for opinions, and the consensus was this one, which made my job easier because I was already leaning this direction. This one was $10 more, but I just like the overall look of it a little bit better, and so that was worth it for me. But this is probably the lightest that you're really going to see from these, and some people might not like it because if you get up to that main bolster, you see that it's starting to fade to an almost just natural bone color. There's still a hint of blue, but it's very, very light. But I really like seeing the lighter stains and a little bit more inconsistent stains that have the darker blues and stuff like that, where you can see inconsistencies in the actual bone, and so I think it just visually looks interesting to me, so I like that a lot. Now if we do flip over to that pile side, it's a little bit darker, still not the darkest I've seen, and so I think this one looks really well as well, or it looks really good as well, but I like the cover side a lot more on this one. And so I mentioned I've seen darker. There's some that are basically this level of blue, and I think this looks really cool too. This is not a G.E.C, this is a cold steel actually, but some really beautiful covers on that one as well. And for me, it's just not as interesting looking when it's super dark. I do think it looks good still, but obviously gonna look a little bit different in G.E.C's version, but I prefer this one. And so continuing with the outside of the knife, we have these kind of squared bolsters, and it is a Northfield unexcelled, so of course it has that mirror polish, triple fluted on that main bolster, and the cloud or keyhole shield, which I've mentioned in other videos, some people call a poop shield, but I think that looks really good here, and same with the mirror polish actually. I do prefer a satin finish just because it hides imperfections and scratches a little bit better. It's not going to have fingerprints on it constantly. But in this case, with these cover combination, I do think that mirror polish looks really good. And I think that cloud shield looks really good as well. Pin wise, it's really well done. Everything's completely flush. We do have a slightly deep seated pin in this bottom pin, but really not a big deal there. Gapping, basically nothing. It's perfect on that back spring. Everything looks good there. And so the fit and finish that we really come to expect from G.E.C. Now, this run did have a couple issues that I don't really have any of. One being that there were a few, I think, that were missing the blade etch. And so that actually might have been better for me. I'm not a huge fan of blade etches unless they're bringing something cool to the table. This one's not really, and so would have been fine without the blade etch. Also have seen a lot, not a lot, but a few people with miscentered blades. This one is really well centered. And last but not least, a proud tip. And so don't have any of those issues, can't get up under that tip, can't get my nail or my flesh under the tip. And so none of those issues. Now, this one does have an exposed tang, which for some people is a deal breaker. For me, not so much. In fact, on the single bladed knife, it's really not even something I think about so much because I'm carrying this in a slip, and so I'm not going to be like running my fingers across it or bumping into it in my pocket since it's already in a slip. And then when you're using the other blade, you might run across it on a multi-bladed knife, but on this one there's only one blade, and so it's not like in your grip position when you're using the knife that tang is going to come into contact with you. So it really doesn't bother me there. We do have that long pull that you see with the Northfield unexcelled line, but a lot of the blade is exposed. There's a nice swedge on the tip, but enough of that's exposed that you can easily pinch grip this, no problem. Now, as far as the pull goes, really, really good on this one. Kind of similar to yesterday, I'd say medium heavy, definitely not on the heavy side, but a nice medium pull, which I'm always happy with. And so that's really nice action, super snappy still. And so that's really nice as well. And just overall satisfied with the fit and finish, walk and talk, action, everything about this knife. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is this is a sway back pattern. And so as far as ergonomics goes, we have that 3.21 inch handle and able to get a nice 4-finger grip, but you are going to want to be in that kind of pull position where you're pulling towards you for cuts. And so it obviously can function just fine, but it does feel a little bit, if you've ever held a sway back, it's a little bit like foreign feeling when you hold it in the normal cutting position, but these are made for those pull type cuts. And so really, really comfortable in that position. Now, it is a smaller knife, but they do make great use of the space overall. We still get a 2.61 inch blade with a 2.37 inch cutting edge, bringing our total length to 5.82 inches. And so as small as it feels when it's closed, it does feel like you have a just normal sized knife here. And so I like that about it quite a bit as well. And just another one that the covers are really doing it for me. That's one of the things with G.E.C. I like obviously the fit and finish and all the different patterns that they offer, but I think they do some of the best covers out there, and I really love just cherry picking and getting those on the secondary, knowing exactly what you're going to get. Now, the big downside to that is that you can pay more than retail on the secondary, and often will. In this case, actually, I end up paying $10 more than the other one I was looking at. Pretty close to retail, and it's hard to say what retail is because a lot of retailers sell them for different prices, but I'd say it was within about $10 of the kind of average price of these. And so with G.E.C, it's just one of those weird things where it's hard to talk about price because a lot of times I'm not buying them retail, so I can't say I bought it from this retailer for this much, and every retailer prices them differently, but paid a pretty reasonable price. I think it was around $130 or so, and so paid a pretty reasonable price for this one. Really, really excellent example of it though. Good one, I think, to round out my G.E.C list so far. And if you've stuck around with me, I definitely appreciate it. The metrics, on the channel definitely said I should have peppered these in 1 a week and not done 7 of these in a 1.5 week period. But I really enjoyed doing it. Sometimes you need to take a break and just do something you enjoy. And so metric wise, for sure, I think people are kind of ready for me to get back into modern and locking knives and pouches and that sort of thing. And so that's definitely what we're going to do. Going to overcorrect the rest of the week, but appreciate you if you stuck around or if you checked these out, if you're already into them, if this is the only reason you checked out the channel. Either way, definitely appreciate it. And so with that said, let me know what you think of this knife down in the comments below. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, always appreciate it if you'd consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification button, because it does help out the channel a ton. And I hope you have a great one. Take care.